You're listening to a Very Spatial Podcast, episode 772, October 26, 2025.
Hello, welcome to a Very Spatial Podcast. I'm Jesse.
I'm Sue.
I'm Barb.
And this is Frank.
And this week we are going to be talking about things that are AI, AR, XR related as the news items and the topic. So let's get kicked off by saying that grounding, which is with Google Maps, is now available. This is one of the many things that have been recently announced in terms of the integration of Gemini and Google Maps. So grounding with Google Maps is now going to be in Vertex AI through general availability.
I had to say that they said through GA, and I was like, Georgia? What it's like, oh, general availability. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, I don't understand why I need to know what state it's out of. But anyway.
So it let's see. They list 4 things: timely details, reviews, business data, full picture on their queries by combining grounding and Google Maps, Google Search and Maps. Yeah.
Right. And I think by grounding, they just mean like adding in local sources where available, right? Verifiable local sources to ground it in the locality.
Right. But basically the way to think about it is allows you to ask, questions that may not necessarily be like on the website. Like the example they give is, can I bring my kids to tonight's venue? And they'll look and see who's playing and then go, oh yeah, that's appropriate for kids or not appropriate for kids. It's sort of those kind of more subjective questions and queries that you may ask, and it's going to go and look at all the associated information and make a determination. I kind of think of it as like the thing you might ask a friend who knows a little bit about what's going on.
That you don't really trust.
That you don't really trust, yeah.
See, when I first read it, because it said your AI is now a local expert, and it had, the term grounding, I was expecting it to be a ground truthing type tool.
That is where I went initially as well, which is why I just mentioned kind of, what they're meaning by it, because obviously we're a specialized audience, so that's how initially I read it. But yes.
I, on the other hand, went with the groundlings, and I was like, well, okay, that doesn't make sense.
That they're an improv comedy troupe?
Yeah, it was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then when I read more about it, I was like, well, it's not too far from the truth.
we will treat it as comedic as it gives us funny answers.
Actually, the way I think about it, if you're used to using Amazon and you look for a particular product, and at the top of Amazon on the people's comments and ratings and stuff like that, they're now giving summaries that say people are saying this about the product or that about the product, but they do note this other thing about the product. It kind of feels not 1,000 yards different from that it's going, oh, this is what people are kind of saying about the thing, which is useful, but also, again, a friend you have questionable trusts in their opinions.
Kind of connected to this, the next one takes us continuing again into Google with their connecting the dots with geospatial reasoning, where here we'll just read it. It's a framework powered by Gemini that now lets AI automatically connect different Earth AI models to answer complex questions. Models like weather forecasts, population maps, satellite imagery. And this, of course, is where I think some of the conversation separations between what I occasionally try to poke at and other people are focusing on more of the generative stuff. They're calling these AI models their data sets. So it's a long-term thing, I think, to figure out how to talk about these as not all the same, even though people are kind of bunching them into baskets.
Yeah, I mean, they are technically AI, but only in the same sense that, a cell phone is a computer and Apple Watch is a computer, and that's all true, but also they're vastly different than a desktop computer or a server or a cloud or anything like that.
Is a pixel a token? Yes. I don't disagree with that.
Right. So, I mean, you have to, I think that we have to figure out how to meaningfully, as a culture, meaningfully separate AI as a marketing label versus as I'm going to say body of literature just because we're all academics, but that's the least terrible thing I can think of to call it in terms of a basket phrase.
Yes, if we wanted to take that as our kind of starting point, it would be saying that, okay, everything's AI. Okay, everything is the same in phenomenology. There are so many different phenomenologies and things that came out of phenomenology. There are so many different things whenever we're talking about AI or the word model that they are not the same thing. So, yeah, these are, again, the long-term questions.
Yeah, Jesse, when I was reading through it, I was thinking like you that, what this is identifying data sets to create layers and they're saying it can answer questions like, for example, about flooding within a specific community that might be in danger. I'm like, well, good, but it depends. What are you drawing it from? And again, better than nothing, but how useful? And are people going to think that this is it? It's drawn from these baskets and that's all I've got available to me and I don't need to look any further.
So geospatial reasoning to go along with our other things that we talked about before. And of course, Earth AI, which is now in Google Earth, as well as cloud-based. These are all things in this
let's still
news
continue
item.
to spin my wheels on geospatial reasoning capitalized after 20-some years working in GIS and geography and stuff. And I'm like, I just want to know, like, why was my geospatial reasoning all those years not capitalized? What?
Because you did not productize it.
That's it, right? That's where I'm at right now.
It was just a service you were providing, not a
Yeah.
product.
There's no TM. You got no
Yeah.
TM. That's,
There you go. There you go. Also, imagery insights, that's capitalized as well. I think I saw somewhere. Yeah.
Again, Google loves to make a product and then just so they can get rid of it later.
Yeah, that's also true.
Now, a lot of this came out now because the first Google Google AR, one of the two.
it's Google AR, but Samsung's doing an XR.
There you go. The first one of those devices has been basically announced and I guess released for order, if not actually out in the store shelves yet. And that is, as Frank was saying, Galaxy XR from Samsung. And so a lot of the examples they gave for Galaxy XR were Google Maps related. So if you go and look at some of the Galaxy XR videos on YouTube, they're essentially, hey, this is a cool hardware device. Use Google Maps. Use Google Earth inside of this virtual headset.
Well, that's because early on, right, there's some of the things that you can show. And in a bit, when we talk about the meta display, it's a similar thing, like that I think we're still at the point where a lot of these types of devices are limited because they're limited with what people can make for them, thus limited in their broader appeal, right? Because so early on, right, something that grabs it and shows it is something like Google Maps.
I think this comes down to one symbol and only one symbol. The headline link here said the Samsung Android XR, whatever the heck it's called, could succeed where the Apple, what's it called, Vision Pro
Vision Pro, yeah,
has failed. And that's kudos for having a good clickbaity headline and all that sort of stuff. When you start digging into it and you're like, okay, well, the reason they're making that argument is because it's half the price of the Pro. So the Pro is like $3,600 or something like that, depending on how much storage you get in it. And then this thing's $1,800. Well, my argument would be that to Sue's point, what are you bringing to the table that my $500 Meta doesn't? I think that's the big problem.
Just to keep it in the things that are called Pro, the $300 cheaper Meta Pro, whatever it was.
Yeah. Or
Everybody
HTC Vive, I think, is like $1,200 or something.
Yeah.
So it's to me, this is coming down to value for dollar. And I think that this is, again, to Sue's point, the use case isn't been made, certainly not for the price of a new freaking computer or double the price of a new computer in the case of Apple's.
Now, I do feel that, and this kind of reflects on both of your responses, is that whenever we look at the Android AR environment, it is building on over a decade of virtual reality, even though we don't think about the fact that Cardboard is the basis of this. Cardboard that they more or less let go, 5 years ago?
Oh, I think longer than that.
Yeah. And so all these apps that were built for Cardboard will work in these if they've been updated in the last, decade. So they do have a step up on what Apple had, which is people had to start from scratch building VR applications for the Vision Pro. And so, that's limitation one right there. But you do also have on the other end Meta with the massive number of headsets out there that people have been building for over a decade for the Quest.
Yeah, and I just think like some things like this just aren't learning the lessons, right? In the gaming world with the headsets that came out, the same thing, right? Is that the broad number of things that you could do in it wasn't there. Like you had a limited number of games, you do certain things, and it still never hasn't really done that. And the same thing with some of the other like headsets, his combo use case. So here's the thing, right? To get, I think the money making that they're looking for, you have to have, say, a business use cases, which Microsoft tried with the HoloLens, which others have tried, and it's just not there yet. But yeah, also I have to say, when I saw the price of this, because I was all excited a little bit when I'm scrolling down. All right, it's Android, so it'll probably be cheaper. Yeah, okay, so it's cheaper, but literally, it's just I just looked at the price and went, yeah, okay, and then I looked at the headset and I'm like, what in that design is $17.99 or whatever it is? Yeah.
So the thing I don't know the answer to, which actually Sue might, how much is a Galaxy Fold? Original base price.
Of a Fold? Oh, that's like over $1,000.
Might
be close to $2,000.
I was going to say,
yeah.
The Flip is over $1,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah, okay, so Samsungs aren't cheap. Fair.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we talk about this, we're talking about something that is about the same price as their flagship phone.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, but it's got the same problem as the headsets had the exact same issue. Well, as two issues, one of which is very similar to a phone. It's going to come down to why is everyone buying that stupid thin? I don't mean the phone's stupid. I mean, it's stupid thin.
Yeah,
Apple 17 now. I forget the Air, because it's so freaking light and it's so thin. That's why everyone's like, I love this thing. It's tiny. It's not my thing, but weight matters. When you look at the XR, you got to scroll down quite some distance to find any. I mean, they throw around lots of numbers and X number of pixels and by Y number of pixels and the total CPU clock cycle and all this other junk they're throwing at you. Like, I don't care. I just don't care. What I care about is how much does this stupid thing weigh, and I care about whether it's balanced. And that's what is one of the defining points between whether anyone bothers with this thing. Because if it's sitting on front of your eyes and it weighs 14 pounds, you're going to not want to do it very long. Now, when you get down to the chart, it does say it's 545 grams. And being an American, I have no idea how that is. But the problem with even that is it doesn't tell me the balance. So again, if it's all front heavy, as you would expect, looking at the thing, it may not be very comfortable to wear for very long. Whereas people can play on their phone for hours and hours and hours and hours without any issues. So weight is the one thing. And the other big thing that people don't talk about is that I don't care how much developmental whatevers you do to pixels and CPU cycles and grams and the whole 9 yards. A very large percentage of the people who put this thing on are going to want to throw up inside of 10 minutes of using it. And that's just, nobody wants to use things that make them sick. They just don't. Now, you can get to the point where that's not an issue, but it's not dissimilar to, calluses on playing guitar. If you just don't do it for a while, you've got to do the work again. I haven't played around with our Meta in 3 months. And I know when I put it on there, I'm going to start getting nauseated whenever I start messing around with it. So I'm going to have to build up my tolerance again until they figure out how to deal with those issues and figure out a good use case that makes me want to deal with those problems. I don't see how these things are going to take off beyond the few $100 range.
But they're not, I don't think, meant to. One, it's just over a pound. In case you were wondering, 540 grams is 19 ounces, so just over a pound.
How does that compare? I'm wondering how that compares, like the Meta and the
probably
Pro.
About the same.
Apple Pro.
Apple's is probably a little heavier because of the glass and stuff like that.
Guessing.
But I think our Meta Quests are about a pound.
Yeah, I can tell the difference. I can remember back the HoloLens was like a
solid 2.5 pounds.
It would like bow your neck down a little bit when you first put it down. So like I have a comparison point from those, and they are better, and that weight is much better. But still, you're right. It's still something noticeable. And the fact that in the VR space, you have to seal off kind of the outside input if you're in the VR mode is always going to be an issue for the vertigo and those things for some people.
Which is why we're moving on to the next part with the fact that Meta has released the Ray-Ban display. So Meta Ray-Ban display is the next generation of the Meta Ray-Ban series, but it has the one lens projection system in it. So you're getting information fed to you in a glass. Now, we've talked about even realities. There's other companies that are literally doing that right now. There's multiple Kickstarters over the last 2 months that are their goal is to build these type of things. But it's interesting to me that I kind of want the display, but I don't really care right now, because the thing I use my Meta Ray-Bans for, and I have 2 pair. I have a pair for sitting at the computer and one for driving, and both of them are progressives. And so they're ones that if I get the display in, it's going to be that much more expensive because I have a prescription on top of that. And so the use case I have is audio. And I use the AI in these things maybe once a month. And that's just because I'm somewhere where it's easier just to tap the side of my glasses and ask a question than to pull out my phone. And half the time I'm not happy with the answer because it's llama based as opposed to other AI bases. But that's a whole separate AI set of conversations of which LLMs are actually useful for you for day to day, with the kind of questions you ask, because each one does better than others for specific things. And most of the time I'm asking questions, it's about, well, not about official stuff. It's about what was the year that X book was written or White movie came out. And so, yeah, these are the weird things I ask. But either way, it's not about, for me right now, that display capability, but all of these headsets, which are not glasses based, are building towards these capabilities. And so even in Google's AR original demonstration, they want to get to glasses. They made that very clear. They said, you know what, whenever we first come out with Samsung, it's not going to be glasses, but it is, Google AR is being built with that in mind. So it's not necessarily supposed to be just XR. It is a goal of smaller, regular glasses shaped AR.
Yes, I know. But you know what? Here's in my if costs were no issue or anything like that, what I'd love to see is a dual headset. Where in the VR, if you want to do VR in the VR space, it has that surround whatever you need there, and maybe it has different inputs. And then you can detach the part that can do AR, and it becomes something much lighter and just carry it around. Like I would,
we have those, but most of them are driven by phone, so you have to have the phone attached.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
they're
that's
not great. In
that's
fact,
how
I think you have at least one pair of those.
No, they can only do one thing. The ones that I have.
No, you then had a little cover that went on the outside that made them. Never mind.
Anyway,
but yeah, these things exist, and again, people have been building towards this for quite some time. But yeah, I don't know if I agree with Sue. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, that's all right.
So I have 2 thoughts about this. The first of all is the mean one, which is if you look at the picture in the show notes, I have to ask, does it come with a pocket protector?
Wait, which one are you talking
I'm
about?
talking about the Meta ones. They are just hideous.
Yes, they are.
And I'm a guy who wears thick glasses, and that's just. But I fully acknowledge that they're going to get better, and they're going to get into a smaller and smaller footprint, because as much as I was ragging on the headsets a few minutes ago, they are lighter and lighter and lighter, as Sue noted. So that's going to happen. This is a technology that I desperately want, and I want to use, and I think I need, and all 3 of the answers to those questions are no. And I'm aware of that. It's like I want it to be a thing that I use. And I think, like Jesse, I just won't really use them in the way that I just won't. And I'm kind of curious if that's a function of, I'm trying to think how to articulate this. Is it because I'm just too old? Like if I started doing this when I was 14, would it become just part of me? Much like, the cell phone is just an extension of a lot of people at this point, the smartphone, I should say. Or is it just we as a species haven't quite gotten this technology to the point where people go, oh yeah, I get it now. I get where this exists in my life. But because, you know, I almost bought, when I bought my new glasses, I almost got the Meta glasses. I was like, man, I think I might do that. And then you had made a comment at some point, I don't remember if it was on the air or off, but about the fact that you just use yours mostly for listening to music. And I was like, well, I have AirPods, so I don't need that. I don't need to spend the extra money for those. And because I was like, yeah, I totally wouldn't use them either.
So I will say I use them constantly, as you say, for music. But whenever I'm in situations, I use the camera. I would be happier with it if it was a different camera, because of course it's a vertical, and I'm old, so I want landscape.
Yeah.
And I will use the AI on occasion. And I will say that the amount that I use them, each 3 of those use cases, parallels the amount I use those 3 use cases for my phone. It's, you know, a little bit less than I use my phone, because sometimes it's easier just to use the phone to get the results you want. But I will say that I will use the camera. I will use the AI, but I don't use the AI a lot on my phone or on my computer. So the fact that I don't use it a lot on my phone, on my glasses, isn't too surprising. And I don't take a huge amount of pictures like most people do. So the fact that I only take some pictures and videos on my glasses isn't really that surprising either.
Yeah.
So
Although I
it's
will
use
say,
case in general, I think.
on the audio, when I use mine, because I have the just real quick, the Workspace Progressives as well. I cannot wear earbuds because of the shape of my ears. They are painful, and I can't situate them such that I can actually hear very well out of them. So I've never really used earbuds. But the glasses and the phone thing, like on Zoom call, like on all use cases on the computer, actually, they work great for me. So I just want to note that
This is not sponsored by.
But that particular function I actually do find, and I had a previous set of audio glasses. So
in the Engadget review, they talk about the Meta's neural band, the basically being able to use gestures, that it is, you know, pretty robust, and that it didn't misinterpret any gestures or that were being used. So I think that's something else that adds to the potential for it. I like the idea of being able to use, you know, like finger taps and things like that to do directions.
I think it's nice to have that to get around whenever you're in a meeting or something like that. But I do expect that the hand tracking that you do have in the Meta Quest or whatever headset you're looking at nowadays, that you will be able to do that as well. It's just right now they're starting with that because they expect people not to want to be obvious whenever they're swiping in the air.
all the headsets, I mean, like that's always what the challenge is, the interface. Like how do you get it to do stuff is always a problem.
I was just going to say that I will admit that another reason that I was like, nah, is because they're $800 for the frames. And my glasses, my personal prescription is so wonky. I'm spending well over that. Well, pretty close to that just on the lenses. So, you know, we're talking about doubling the cost. And it's like, that's a lot of money on something that I'm not convinced I'll use. So I think that the combination of making them look a little less dorky and making them a little more functional and making them cheaper, I think it's going to be really the tipping point to, I mean, you know, with VR, the Apple Vision Pro doesn't make sense for most use cases for most people at that price point. The Meta may, and you know, there's $3,000 difference between the two. So yeah, but that's what I'm saying is I think when we get it to the point where it's a little more, yeah, why not? It's going to take off a bit more. And the other piece of this is going to make a big difference to me is I want it to be able to slot in with the services I want to use. So, you know, and that's how my phone works is I'm going to use this for my browser. I'm going to use that for my maps. That's what I want to have that capability because for whatever reasons, I like that better as opposed to what somebody said, we've decided this is the best thing, which, you know, Jesse, you talked about the llama being less than ideal for the types of questions you ask. You know, it'd be better to have a system that is more suited to the types of questions that I'm going to ask.
To say, well, actually, this next news piece then speaks to some part of that, I think, because at the recent Meta event, what is it called? Connect, whatever. Meta announced that they're actually going to have something called a wearables device access toolkit. So for developers to be able to do some third-party stuff on the Meta glasses. Yeah. So, and I thought this was interesting because they pointed out that it's not like a traditional SDK that we think about where, you build your app and you deploy it out. It's actually, you can't deploy things onto the glasses because of course they're just an input device with sensors. But what you'll be able to do is access the sensors like the microphone so you can ask it things, or the camera, and then you'll have an app on your phone, and then the app will push out whatever results you need back to the device. But they gave one example that they'd been working with Disney on an app to, like, a lot of this is context specific. So what we would think of as AR, right? Looking at your surroundings and having things. But this will allow developers to get some third-party stuff potentially on the glasses in the sense of things that you would use. And so I think that that's a recognition, again, that a lot of these technologies, when they start to spread, is when they have a broad range of appeal to people that do different things and are interested in different things.
Yeah, so I was thinking, that this is one of those inflection points in the development of a technology or geospatial technology, is when you start to be able to have those third-party apps so that you can reach out and start to get more usability for specific audiences. And, another example they used was for golf courses. So, I could see when this starts getting used within specific industries, especially when they're trying to do things like tours or augmented reality type functions, that one of those things is going to hopefully really hit to expand the technology.
And that's kind of, we laud the revolutionary aspect of the original iPhone, which really its revolutionary piece was the App Store. When you get down to it, it's like, yeah, we have this platform that does a bunch of stuff, and here's a way that you can make it do things we haven't thought of doing yet. Once that happened, that just elevated that concept to a whole nother level from where it was even previously. Because, Apple, as brilliant as they are, can't think of everything, but allowing people to do those things, it's just, that opens up so many different facets. It's not even funny.
Can't remember. I do remember that, of course, the App Store didn't exist until the second version of the iPhone. So which came first, Play Store or the App Store? Play Store.
I'm pretty sure App Store came first.
I would say iTunes, because you could get early apps on iTunes before it rolled to the App Store. So that was definitely earlier than Play Store.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Play Store came after it. I think it was very much we can do that and evolve it a little bit.
So just curious, couldn't remember. It's been a while. Was it 13, 12 years? No.
It's been longer.
18 years?
I say it's closer to 20 than not.
Yeah. And then finally, this week is Amazon has announced that they're going to create delivery-based glasses. So they have cameras, they have a display in them, I assume audio as well, but they will allow delivery drivers to more readily access and figure out what they need to grab. So the cameras are going to help to read the QR codes and those type of things that are on packages, so that whenever they're looking for something, they can easily grab the package they need, know whether or not it's the right one as they're heading up to a building.
I literally cannot think of a better use of AR glasses, period. I mean, this to me, this is spot on the use case. Find the package in the truck easier because it's reading a barcode or using a QR code or something like that. The pictures that we all get, not all, but a lot of us get from like UPS or something like that, whenever it's delivered to your door, they just got to walk up and go picture, boom, done. As they're dropping it off. I don't know what the time it takes for them to take that picture is, but you're shaving that off of however many packages you're delivering every day, driving directions, you name it. This to me is, would be in the textbooks for great uses of AR. That's the first comment. The second comment is, how important is this given the fact that Amazon's going to just move to complete robotics for everything now?
Given that they can't do that in urban areas yet.
Yeah,
let's hope
it's going to be a
bridging technology. But I mean, the move towards robotic warehousing, not to mention the delivery of drones and things like that. You start asking, where does all this fit within the magic wall of strategy that I'm assuming they have at Amazon.
So a whole other set of conversations, I think, that are tied together with this and economics, because of course, which is cheaper, I think, is the real thing that Frank is asking: the person who's driving or the AI processing power, and the person may be cheaper nowadays.
Well,
in the
but
future.
they mentioned they are looking at releasing a consumer version too. So
Yes. Yeah.
they're also thinking about making money that way. And also, apparently, you have to wear a vest, and so there's going to be a giant button that'll do the trigger the photo. So I thought that was interesting.
When I was thinking about this, there were several things that came to mind if you're thinking about the materials and construction, but also how these services are delivered logistically. And for Amazon, everything is vertical and integrated. But for a lot of companies, like they said, for businesses or independent people could buy them at some point, that a lot of times those end up being the cost is on the people that are doing the deliveries or the companies, because that becomes a lease situation. But my question is about the robustness in the heat and the cold and on battery life. Because I was thinking about that before. I was thinking about like Disney, but other places where you could use it. And I was like, well, for, mountain climbing tours, things like that would be very useful. But then you get into a lot of battery life and just the impact of hot, cold.
I mean, the other place for this you could see showing up or replacing, body cams for the police, right? What if they're asked to, carry these and use that as a way of documenting stops and arrests and that sort of stuff like that. And that's happening at some level in some places, but you can see that becoming a much more pervasive way for police work to use to have accountability and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of interesting applications here.
And so, again, news items, but also for this week, our topic. So that's it for the news.
And topic.
So in our web corner, the Leventhal Map and Education Center at the Boston Public Library has created Atlasscope, which they are pushing out to all of Massachusetts. And it is a way to explore the different layers of history in the Boston region. It's pretty cool. It is like a more robust version of the SpyScope that you would see in a story map, but involves a lot of work by researchers, genealogists, local historians, archaeologists, educators, and others. And they're reaching out because if you're in that region, if you're in Massachusetts, you can, get involved and tell your story with the Atlasscope. It also would be neat to see if there are other things like this elsewhere in the world. It's a very fun tool to use.
Lots of Sanborn maps, which is, a great way to show historic back to 1870 something, I think, or 60 something.
On to the events corner. Of course, head out, go to conferences now.
First up is GeoAI 2026, which is June 3rd to the 5th in Ghent City Center, Belgium. The call for papers is due January 20th if you want to present that.
The 2026 International Conference on Geographical Information Systems Theory, Applications, and Management, or GISTAM, will be May 21st to the 23rd in Benidorm, Spain, and its call for papers are due January 5th.
The 2026 GIS-in-Central-Asia, GISCA conference is the 28th through 30th of May in Tashkent, Uzbekistan.
Of course, if you'd like to add your event to the podcast, send us an email to podcast@veryspatial.com.
If you'd like to reach us individually, I can be reached at sue@veryspatial.com.
I can be reached at barb@veryspatial.com.
You can reach me at frank@veryspatial.com.
I'm available at Kinda Spatial, and of course, you can find all of our contact information over at veryspatial.com/contacts.
As always,
We're the folks in Very Spatial.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye.